Hello, welcome to our channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And yes, I'm in my pajamas. Yes, they have my cat on them. They were a Christmas present from my husband. So yeah, and yes, the office is periodically a mess. So let's get to this. So what we're going to be reviewing here is kind of something I switched out. I was going to do a TV series on the Titanic, but I never got a chance to watch it because busy. And kid, I have since gotten a portable DVD player so I can watch stuff in my bedroom since I don't have a television in my room. I don't watch it on the big TV in the living room. So hopefully that will get me caught up on more of the Avonlea stuff. Kendra. And yes, that's the creature that's on the pajamas. Made vicious calico. And I'm kind of glad I did, because instead of that, I'm going to be reviewing a YouTube video on a channel, Kendra, don't bite me, called Oceanliner Designs. So, and this is specifically on Bruce Ismay. So the title of this video is Titanic Scandal, How J. Bruce Ismay's Reputation Was Ruined. It's about almost 20 minutes long, so it's not entirely short. So this is kind of an interesting video. Now, I've have covered or will cover a specifically nonfiction book on Bruce J. Ismay. Now, if you are unfamiliar of this, who this is, and what this does pertain to the Titanic, your head's been in the sand. So Ismay was the president of the White Star Line. So he was technically an owner of the Titanic and its two sister ships. And he was on the Titanic the night when it sunk. Now, this was not unusual for him. He quite often was on his ships when they took their maiden voyages. So that was very common for him to be there. And he didn't actually own the ship. He did inherit his position as president of the White Star Line from his father. So it came from his family. But I think there was another company that was more of a parent company to this. But he was considered in charge. And at least of the White Star Line, not of the Titanic. And what's important about this is Ismay was blamed for the sinking of the Titanic. And in every film, from the Titanic film that I covered to any other media, movie, miniseries, Ismay is pretty much the villain of the story when he wasn't. And in this video, I learned a little bit more about him and the evidence that they have of how and why this nonsense came about. The reason his reputation was completely ruined and he was kind of blamed for this by the media, evidence by the media, Congress did in fact have an inquiry. He was found to, through witnesses, to have absolutely nothing to do with it. This was not his fault. He was not in charge of the ship. The issue was him and one of the big newspaper guys in the United States didn't get along. They did not like each other. So that led to basically this guy, whose name I cannot remember, big newspaper guy in the United States at this time, basically slandering his name and printing lies like crazy because he was pissed off and pretty much destroying Ismay's life, even though he had nothing to do with this. So a couple of things are talked about and particularly shown. It's particularly in the Titanic film, which is probably the biggest things people are most familiar with, where he's having conversations with Captain Smith, the captain of the ship, talking about trying to get into port early, trying to beat the Olympic, which is the sister ship's time, basically acting like he was telling and pressuring Smith to do what he says, which in reality, from what evidence we have and is presented in this video, is far from the truth. This is not something Ismay would when he was a passenger on one of his ships, why he he would definitely talk to the captain. They would converse about different things. He was a passenger on the ship. He was not an expert. He was not the type of micromanaging type of person. He hired people to do the job, and he let them do their job. So he knew Captain Smith. Kendra, do not claw me. And he let him do his job. He was also notably against getting in early. He didn't want to speed up the ship. He didn't want to get in early. He didn't want to get in Tuesday night. It would disrupt everything. The ship was, at the time, expected to technically beat Olympics time all on its own without actually having all the engines running. And what had been happening, the ship had been running smoothly, and he happened to talk to Smith. Everything's going great. Should we open up all the engines, and just kind of having a casual conversation about what was going on and how everything was going along. And this was what was overheard by one of the first class passengers. And that's what she reported. She didn't actually report that he was pressuring him, which is what's often shown in a lot of the films. And he wasn't. Again, it's very obvious from his own writings and his own correspondence that he had no interest in speeding up the ships. It was not his thing. And it was, them coming in early would disrupt things. It would disrupt people getting off the ships and people picking them up and all sorts of things. It wasn't going to make the passengers happy. And of course, they're not going to be unloading the ship in the middle of the night, so it doesn't actually matter. So he was very much against that. The other thing to talk about is the bloody lifeboats. The lifeboats had nothing to do with Ismay. The Titanic actually had more lifeboats than was required by law. It had nothing to do with the ship's builders, had nothing to do with Andrews, who was the ship's designer, or Ismay. They had more lifeboats than were required by law. So it was the law that wasn't pretty much dictated that you didn't need to have enough lifeboats to basically deal with all the passengers. The other thing that's shown in the films that pretty much is very much presented in this video is that Ismay did not grab a child and sneak aboard a lifeboat, which is what's shown in the Titanic film. Nope. He was helping. He was not pompous. He was helping women and children the entire time. Yes, he discussed things, but with the captain. But again, he was helping at one point. When he got into a ship, into literally the last lifeboat going that was not filled, they had shouted out women and children. None of them showed up and so he got into a lifeboat because there was space. He was there. Other men could have gotten in. I think another gentleman got in with him. The problem was, and he didn't watch the Titanic sinking, not because he was ashamed, but he felt he just couldn't watch it. This was a dream. He watched this thing be built. It was breaking his heart. Unfortunately, this was also a time, as the video points out, of the macho man view of he should have gone down with the ship. So he went against the British ideal of the masculine man, despite the fact that this was essentially an upper class, never really worked much in his life type of gentleman. And they also say something about, which I didn't know, about him going back, and some of the ship's officers going back to England, and that trying to run away from the inquest, which wasn't true. They did go back to England, yes, but they suspected the ship was British. So they expected the inquest to happen in Britain. So they went back to make themselves available. It ended up happening in the United States. They did not know this. And he was not found guilty. I don't think even Captain Smith was found guilty. But again, he became a recluse. And it's sad because his name was slandered when he didn't do anything wrong. But this is a really interesting video. It is about 20 minutes long. It goes into a lot more detail. it shows a lot of different pictures. This guy's done a couple different Titanic views, so I will definitely link this. Check out the rest of his channel if you're interested in more Titanic. He actually goes over the layout of the ship, which I find really interesting, and he's really an ocean-based YouTuber, which I just found him recently and found really interesting. Now, I'm filming this is March 11th, so you guys will only be seeing this next month. Yes, I am behind. I have a small child. My husband is using the office during the day to work, which is my filming studio, and my child is going to bed late, so I'm trying to figure out times to get this stuff done. My daughter's insisting I read incessantly. So, we are slightly behind, but we're getting there, and I will get there. But again, this is a really interesting channel. I really do love the topic of Titanic. So check out the rest of the channel. This is when you guys, April is my birthday month. I turned 40 this year, if you want to know my age here. So Titanic is an interest to me, and so I'm choosing to do the Titanic. So check out the rest of the channel. I'm working on finishing the Avonlea, the books, the Road to Avonlea, the TV series. I'm moving on to the Boxcar Children, and mysteries, and into some deep history into Angel Island and Ellis Island, and I will eventually get onto food. Not there yet. That's July. Not even there yet. And moving on to a bunch of other stuff. So, and then we will also be starting our homeschool journey. So that will also, you might get a video or two on that next month. And hopefully I will be getting something out on our recent vacation as well. So, again, like and subscribe. Check out the rest of the channel. And thank you.